Welcome back to the show, everyone. Craig and Jonah. Sorry, I'm battling a bit of a cold, so if I sound different and if I have to mute the mic and cough and stuff like that, that's what's going on. Today's topic, we got some mic issues here going on here. All right, let's try that. So today's topic is Jonah and I were talking about King Solomon the other day, and we've had some conversations on and off about that, and I actually have something that sort of relates to that a little bit. So with that in mind, Jonah, why don't you go ahead and start talking about?
So I was thinking about the conversation the other day. We were talking about whether using porn equates to infidelity. And the only real, I was just thinking about, that's like a guy having thousands of mistresses, And so I just happened to come across a Bible verse that seemed to illustrate what that might look like, and so it talks about in the book of Kings how Solomon had 700 wives and 300 concubines, and so that got me to thinking. And I was like, what would that be like? We're already late to mass with just one wife showering ahead of me, I can't imagine getting the whole entourage ready. Then what would that look like in modern terms? Like if somebody had 700 wives and 300 concubines, I think that wouldn't, quite be accepted by society in the same way that pornography uses. And I think it's silly to compare the two because obviously they're different, like I would think. So at first, when I thought about the kind of guys that would have 700 wives and 300 concubines, I'm not sure how to combine those two, because they're separate. I'm not sure what separated the status of a wife and a concubine at that time. But in today's terms, the kinds of guys that I thought would have that would be like, maybe the alphas of society, like Aaron Rodgers or LeBron James, like when they roll into town, they got their 700 wives. And I was just thinking like the flowing robes and the majesty of everybody rolling into town. And, but then I was like, no, that's not quite right. Because Solomon really, if you read, he married these women for political purposes. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to name names, but we can see how some of the politicians of our day could possibly have like 1,000 women, and that wouldn't really surprise anybody, especially for political alliances. Like Solomon was involved with the Egyptians and whoever else, that they could trade with. And it's just interesting. But the story of Solomon is interesting because, the reason that Solomon became so powerful, at least according to the Bible, is just that he sort of knew how to pray. Like he asked God for wisdom and God was there, and helped him through that. And I think that's really the message for everybody, is just like, no matter what your situation is, and, just, you might not think that you're in a state of grace or whatever, you still pray. And Solomon at the time was, and then his 1,000 women led him astray and led him down the primrose path. But, it's just interesting because he goes from asking God for wisdom to like 7 verses later having 1,000 women in his life.
Did the request for wisdom come first or after that?
It came first.
Okay.
Yep. And God said, as long as you, live by my commandments, I'll give you anything you want. And so he's like, well, I want 1,000 women, and that's like, there's a few verses later. And, so then you think like, is that like, collecting baseball cards or something like that, where, like you got the Derek Jeter rookie card that you never take out of the package? I don't know. I kind of doubt it. But because after a while, like you see how it kind of builds up over time, like, oh, let's get married. And then, I'm sure after a while, it's like, 30 more, what the hell, like, I don't know how you amass 1,000 women. Is just like, especially how you designate between wife and concubine. I'm not sure how that worked out for him.
I think marriage was a little different. I think it was much more pragmatic and, like you said, political back then than it was. We had a video we were watching the other day. Someone was talking about kind of the historical origins of marriage and how what we consider marriage now is very different than it was even 100 years ago.
It's more of a contract back then.
Yeah, it was just, you kind of needed each other to survive and have children and kids to tend the fields and stuff like that. Not that love was but it was a very different thing. But it's funny because so you and I were doing the math. We're trying to think how, like,
there's a good chance we're a child of Solomon at some point. If you go back far enough. I mean, realistically,
I'd blame it all on him then,
because you think he could have had like 50,000 kids, or or more. I mean, I don't know. I suppose he had a thought, the math isn't quite right, but maybe he had women outside of the marriages. I don't know. I mean, he wouldn't even know at that point, who's coming in his room.
I was telling my wife that we were talking about this, and she immediately started doing the math. Like, so how often was each wife sleeping with him? And she's like, and she was like, that's I could get on board with that idea. Like only every 3 months or something. You need. She was not opposed to a very diluted intimacy schedule.
That is funny. We should talk to a Mormon, maybe. Like I'm really fascinated by that for obvious reasons. I don't know, because then I wonder, just how well that goes. Like because you have, if he's got 1,000 women in his life, could 500 of them say he's got to mow the lawn that day or whatever? Because that would get, be like almost like a voting system for who wants to do what that day.
I mean, what if they gang up on you?
Yeah, that wouldn't be pretty.
I don't know. It seems like you're inviting a lot of complexity into your life for. I'm not sure what fleeting benefit you're trying to get out of that, but
he had a lot of financial resources at that time, so I think it might have been a little different, and power in general. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that man's appetite is never satisfied. Apparently.
Yeah, I could see that. Like I don't know. I don't know.
So what was Solomon's? I'm not real familiar with it, but what was his ultimate demise, or what was his status with God when he died? Like
I don't know if. Well, the Lord was angry with him. Let me see here. So after he, had the 800 or 1,000 women in his life, the Lord became angry with Solomon, and this is from 1 Kings 11, chapter 11. And he rose up his enemies against him, and basically I think that was his demise. All these rebels and enemies took him down. Here's Solomon's death. As for the other events of Solomon's reign, all he did and the wisdom he displayed, are they not written in the book of the annals of Solomon? Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel for 40 years, and then he rested with his ancestors, and that's pretty much it. It doesn't say whether he died in, what sort of state with the Lord, but you would think probably in a good state. I think, near your death, you'd turn back. I don't know. But then, I mean,
So did the Lord get bothered with wife number 2, wife number 150, 500? Like, what was the tipping point? I'd like to know.
I think it was that 300th concubine.
That set the Lord over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because it says this is, verse 3, he had 700 wives of royal birth and 300 concubines, and his wives led him astray.
Well, we Catholics, we like to know where.
So it wasn't the concubines; it was the wives.
Consider me surprised.
Yeah. I don't know. It is interesting, and they say that they were of royal bloodline or whatever. So like royal birth. So it does make you think that, but I mean, it's a lot of royalty, all in one family like that. I mean, I'm sure Thanksgiving was kind of uncomfortable. Everybody's, battling over position or whatever.
Seems like what's everyone's royalty, no one's royalty anymore. But we Catholics like to know where the boundaries are at. So, like I said, it's we know from a couple episodes ago that you can go up to about 19 minutes and give your wife pleasure. And apparently I'm not sure if it was the 700th wife or the 300th concubine, but it's nice to know where the limits are.
Good to know where the limit is. I think it might have been the second wife, though, because if you look at David, who was Solomon's father, he was led astray by a mistress as well. He saw her bathing on the roof, and then had her husband killed so he could be with her. And I don't know. So I think maybe just one wife.
So riddle me this.
But then also, I'm sorry to interrupt, but he looked at her and he wasn't, shunned at that point. It is different than, I think there is some sort of distinction between just, I'm not pro any of this, stuff online, but like I think there's a distinction to be made between actually having an affair and just, online activities.
Don't tell the folks over, because I don't know. Yeah, seems to me that there is. I mean, it takes 2 minutes to find yourself in that sin on your phone, but arranging a fling somewhere with someone around, it seems like a lot of work.
With a phone, though, you could also arrange in about 2 minutes nowadays.
I suppose, like Uber. I don't know. I guess I'm showing my ignorance. I haven't.
Oh, what is it? I don't even know the app either, but it's the one that sounds like a flame.
Tinder.
Tinder. There we go. Jeepers creepers.
Boy, we are.
You could have been married a long time.
We rehearsed that a long time just to make it sound like
that was real.
We don't know what any of that is. Yeah, I think we nailed that.
We did.
Plausible deniability.
That's because it was real.
But so, I mean, obviously God was not pleased with Solomon, nor was he super pleased with David, but I don't get the impression that he gave up on those folks.
Mm-hmm.
They're still mentioned in scripture, I think still kind of positively.
I think they're both sort of heroes, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. So how do we reconcile that with poor Onan got
pulled out that one time too many.
Yeah. Got knocked off by God because he pulled out and shot on the ground. I mean, that is a mystery that deepens for me.
Maybe they didn't pull out. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be I'm going to refrain from commenting what I was thinking about, but yeah, I mean, it is, yeah, first time.
Yeah, it must be pretty bad.
First time for everything, but I don't know. We'll see. Well, maybe it'll loosen up here. It'll come out anyway, but yeah, I mean, I just, you look at that, and then you look at poor Onan, and then you look at poor modern day Catholics.
Mm-hmm.
I continue to watch a lot of podcasts or like I see the stuff online, and you see men fretting over whether they are lusting after their wives because they want them so much during the abstinence periods, and I'm just like, whew.
Yeah, how do we go from those stages to that point? I agree.
I don't understand that. Maybe someone can explain it to me. So, I have yet to see a convincing explanation for how the God of the Old Testament was, I wouldn't say fine with all that stuff, but certainly wasn't all hot and bothered. Wasn't striking them down. Yeah,
with a lot of polygamy, various sexual sins. I don't know.
Yeah, patient to a fault, it almost seems. And then you look at here we are. Yeah, I don't know. The Lord just having a rough day, and Onan just set him off. I don't know.
I don't know. I think really, we just can't worry about it as much as we tend to, and just talk to God about everything, and just go to confession and just trust in God's mercy. I mean, that's really all that you can do. I mean, for most guys, that's all you can really do. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just remember, it could be worse. You could have Solomon's problems. You could have 700 wives and 300 concubines, and then you're still not happy. So count your blessings, boys.
It doesn't say he wasn't happy.
Yeah. You could put up with a lot of political turmoil in your life with that kind of schedule.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, so when he was living in that, constant state of bliss or whatever he's living in like that, like, I mean, the kingdom was quite successful. I mean, they were like extremely wealthy. I'm sure that, maybe he was, motivated by all the child support he's going to have to pay. I don't know.
Yeah, it does make you wonder, the guy in the perpetual bliss period.
You can get a lot done.
Yeah. think that guy ever knew what PMAS was.
I doubt it.
Oh, it's been
Yep.
4 days. Let's go find another dozen wives.
4 days.
Yeah.
You're talking more like
Been 4
hours.
hours.
I don't know. I don't even know what that guy's schedule looked like. Like
I don't know how he got anything else done.
I don't know. He did a lot in those minutes he had for actual work.
Yeah, that's seems like maybe there's a little bit of hyperbole built into that.
Yeah, those are pretty round numbers too.
Yeah.
I mean, because yeah, I mean, if you look at like the Hebrew, I forget what the name of it is called, where the numbers mean something.
Yeah.
But 700 and 300, I think 7 and 3 are both good numbers. So
Sorry, Solomon, we only built the castle for a 1,000-bedroom castle, 900 bathrooms. If you're going to take on more, we're going to have to add on, and that's just so
goes outside of our the codes of the time.
Yeah, I think you're just going to have to find a way to be satisfied with what you have, Solomon.
I don't know. I can't even imagine what they look like.
I kind of think, I don't know. It seems like it stopped being all that fun at that point in time. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, man, like I said, I don't know how you get anything else done, but I don't know. I mean, so here we are. How many thousands of years later?
About 3.
Yeah. Yep. Quibbling over other acts and solo acts and
it did lead to his demise, in fairness.
Yeah.
Despite his wild success.
Yeah.
During that time.
That makes me feel a little better.
Yeah, it did lead to his demise.
Cuts the jealousy down a little bit.
Yeah. Yep, you can rest easy knowing that it come down, but I don't know. But I think that's the message. Just Solomon was known for his prayers and his wisdom, and we should just always turn towards the Lord. But I do see why he wrote an entire chapter in the Bible about sex. And that does make sense now.
It does make some sense now, yeah.
He was apparently just quite skilled with flowery language. I'm sure that's how he, seduced many of his wives, you would think.
We could have had a ton of time for foreplay. He would have just been, I don't know. Is he just like wooing groups at a time? Or are they bringing up, I mean, you can't do that to each individual one.
It's true.
He'd still be out there trying to marry him.
Your breasts are like twin fawns and they just fall over.
Yeah. Right. Oh, that's all I need to hear. I'm yours.
I gotta write that down.
Yeah, right. Oh my.
But yeah, so that was the downfall of that whole family line there. Is David and Solomon, and I don't know whoever else came after, but
yep,
it's a lesson we can learn, even today, or a lesson we can use even today. So keep that in mind. Stay off the internet. Pray to God. Ask for mercy. That's it.
Amen. All right. Well, thank you, Jonah.
You bet.
And until next time, everyone.
Bye.
Have a good one.